know that part of the deal was you had to have sex with this guy. I didn't know at first what was going to happen, especially that first night, because Hugh Hefner died in 2017, but the secrets in his basement lived on. Hidden cameras had been recording guests since the late 1970s. Former girlfriends said the basement stored mountains of adult content that Hefner used to control people. One vault contained FBI files showing decades of investigation. By 2022, over 10 lawsuits emerged from victims who discovered they had been recorded. The basement wasn't just hiding parties. It was hiding crimes that would haunt Hollywood forever. Hugh Hefner was born on April 9, 1926, in Chicago, Illinois. His parents were strict Methodists who didn't believe in hugging, movies, or anything even slightly related to sex. That cold and rule-filled house shaped him in ways no one could have imagined. As a child, he would secretly draw pictures of half-dressed women. Even at that age, something inside him was already pushing against the walls they had built around him. He later said that the lack of warmth in his family made him crave emotional and physical freedom. It was like his whole life became a reaction to that early repression. He had a high IQ of 152, but his school grades were just average. He didn't shine in class, but he shined in his imagination. Elementary, he started writing comic books where he was the hero, full of daring adventures. When he was 16, a girl named Betty broke his heart. That pain hit him so hard he reinvented himself completely. He started calling himself Heg, changed how he dressed, and began writing a comic about his own school life called School Days. This was in 1942, and it was one of the first times he turned personal hurt into something creative. At Steinmetz High School, he kept pushing forward. In 1943, he started the school newspaper called the Steinmetz Trumpet. He was the cartoonist and reporter, blending words with images, making people laugh while sharpening his voice. He also sang in the school band, joined the student council, and never stopped performing. That heartbreak from Betty never really left him. It just pushed him harder. He kept working on his comic series, placing himself into wild stories full of excitement. After he graduated in early 1944, his legacy lived on. Decades later, in 2010, he began donating $7,500 a year to the school's paper so they could print in color. He was 84, but he still remembered that time vividly. Even in 2016, when there was a censorship dispute, he stepped in again, renewing his support to protect student voices. In June 1944, Hefner joined the Army. He trained at Fort Hood in Texas, where he earned a sharpshooter badge with his M1 rifle, but he never went to the front lines. Thanks to his typing skills, he was assigned a desk job in Maryland. He called it a lucky break. Instead of fighting overseas, he was chasing women around Washington and drawing cartoons for military newsletters. He served until 1946 and said those quiet years helped keep his creative flame alive. He believed that if he had seen combat, Playboy might have never happened. After leaving the Army, he went to the University of Illinois in 1946. He studied psychology with minors in creative writing and art. He worked so hard that he finished everything in just 2.5 years. He became the editor of the campus humor magazine called Shaft and introduced a new section called Co-Ed of the Month. Shocked many people, but hinted at what he would later build. He briefly attended Northwestern for grad school in 1949, but dropped out after writing a paper criticizing America's sex laws. He wanted to shake things up, not follow rules. That same year, he also studied at the Chicago Art Institute during the summer, blending his love for visuals and words. In 1952, Hefner was working at Esquire magazine, making $60 a week. He asked for a small raise, just $5, and they said no, so he quit. It was a bold move, but he was fed up. He borrowed $600 by mortgaging his furniture and raised another $8,000 from 45 investors, including $1,000 from his mother, who didn't believe in the project but loved him enough to help. He first wanted to name the magazine Stag Party but had to change it due to legal threats. So he came up with Playboy. The first issue was put together in his small Hyde Park kitchen. The very first Playboy magazine came out in December 1953. Didn't even have a date on the cover, because Hefner wasn't sure there would be a second issue. He bought nude photos of Marilyn Monroe for just $500. They were actually taken in 1949, long before she became a star. Monroe never worked with Playboy or even met Hefner. But that image, her lying on red velvet, eyes closed and lips slightly parted, became iconic. The issue sold nearly 54,000 copies at 50 cents each. Alongside the photo, Hefner included articles on jazz, sports, and even a Sherlock Holmes story. It was his way of saying the magazine was for the mind as well as the eyes. Today, original copies can sell for more than $100,000. Hefner wrote the very first editorial himself. He said the magazine would be entertainment for men with fiction, fashion, music, and women. Didn't take long for major writers to get involved. Ray Bradbury published a story in 1955. Hefner shocked people by printing Charles Beaumont's story about a world where heterosexuals were discriminated against, flipping real-world oppression upside down. The story caused outrage, but Hefner stood by it. That same year, he also hired Dick Gregory, a black comedian he had seen perform in Chicago. It was Gregory's first big break. The magazine was selling 100,000 copies a month by then, but Hefner's fight was just beginning. In 1955, the U.S. Postal Service tried to ban Playboy, calling it obscene. He fought back and won. That win allowed him to print in full color and expand quickly. Even big names like Vladimir Nabokov and John Lennon contributed later. In 1963, he was arrested over photos of Jane Mansfield, but the case ended with a hung jury. He also started a TV show called Playboy's Penthouse in 1959. It looked like a party at his apartment and featured stars like Sammy Davis Jr. and Ella Fitzgerald. The show pushed racial boundaries by showing black and white guests socializing together on screen during a time when many stations in the South refused to air it. In 1960, Hefner opened the first Playboy Club in Chicago. It was packed with visitors, paying for a keyholder membership just to get in. The waitresses wore satin costumes with bunny ears and tails. Behind the scenes, strict rules made them keep to a certain weight and appearance or they would be punished. By 1961, the club had welcomed over 132,000 people in just 3 months. Eventually, there were 40 clubs around the world, including places like London and Jamaica. In 1962, Hefner began writing a long series of essays called The Playboy Philosophy. It ran until